Toronto Raptors have been able to compete with some of the best teams in the league despite being shorthanded or at a disadvantage for a majority of their games this season. Add Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, Khem Birch, with a few splashes of Chris Boucher and Precious Achiuwa, and you have yourself the 2021-2022 Toronto Raptors, who right now stand at 23-22 after a triple overtime Hollywood-like win over the Miami Heat. Despite having no bench to rely on, the Raptors were still able to beat a Miami Heat team whilst primarily playing just 5 players, who each combined for a franchise record in minutes played. I repeat, the Raptors beat the Heat with 5 players in a triple overtime game, with players who have been logging heavy minutes at that, and they've been logging heavy minutes all season long. Not to mention, this was against the Miami Heat team that came into this game as the hottest team in the NBA, having won 10 of its last 11 games. Now, why is this so important to note? Well, because imagine if the Raptors did have a bench. Would things have even been that close with a Kyle Lowry-less Heat team? Most likely not. The Toronto Raptors have a formidable core, and it certainly does not get the recognition that it deserves. And this isn't just because the team resides north of the border. It also has to do with some blatant weaknesses in their roster. Without proper depth, enduring the NBA level of competition throughout a grueling 82-game regular season schedule doesn't exactly spell prepared in the long term. The Raptors have, after all, seen their fair share of injuries throughout the season, the most recent being to Khem Birch, who had to undergo no surgery. Having no depth to rely on and having their starters log such heavy minutes is sure to increase the likelihood of their players getting injured, which leads me to the reason for this video. These are the things that the Raptors need to fix in order to become contenders in the playoffs in 2021-2022. Now, a super quick message before we continue. It has come to my attention that currently only 8.7% of you watching are actually subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It really does make a world of difference, and smash that like button while you're at it, so this video can get to more Raptors and NBA fans such as yourselves. First things first is they need stability at the 5 position. It's no secret that the Raptors need a floor spacing big man who can set screens and be a floor spacer on offense, whilst also being able to protect the rim from other teams' taller big men as well as rebound. Because such a player is a rarer commodity in the NBA, the asking price, in most cases, is steeper. It's also no secret that Goran Dragic's $19 million contract has really stiffened the team up in terms of cap flexibility. But with Goran's resume, the Raptors are banking on garnering interest from teams that are likely to become desperate enough to add pieces close to the deadline. Goran Dragic would be an ideal fit for a team that's looking to make a postseason run, as his offense and breadth of playoff experience is sure to come in handy for a number of potential suitors who are looking to bolster their lineup at the deadline. Recently, Doug Smith of the Toronto Star stated in one of his articles that according to multiple NBA sources, granted anonymity because nothing has been finalized, the Raptors are finding great interest in a myriad of different structured deals for the veteran point guard, and he's almost certain to be dealt near the February 10th NBA trade deadline. And Doug goes on to write that no names were clear in conversations with sources here on the weekend, but it is clear that 10 days out from the deadline, General Manager Bobby Webster and President and Vice Chairman Masai Ujiri are being proactive in seeking deals. Now, the ideal situation here for Toronto would be they trade Dragic for a reliable player who makes a few $1 million less per year and who will still be under contract for at least another year or 2. And of course, the team that does end up trading for Dragic would end up buying him out. And just a side note, while we are talking about players' contracts here, Chris Boucher could also be another Raptor that could provide value as a solid bench piece for a team looking to add depth before a playoff run. His contract is about to expire, and say he does show up and start dropping monster stats post-deadline, the Raptors will be forced to pay him before another team does, or else he will probably walk for free, the latter of which I'm sure Masai and Bobby would want to avoid. Also, as a side note, Khem Birch could also be included in a deal as he has been solid for the team, but at 6'9", he's just a more polished and older version of Achiuwa, who is of course younger and has an arguably higher ceiling than Birch. So the Raptors would most likely deal Khem out of the two if we're looking at a long-term perspective. And of course, the Raptors need to shore up the depth in their roster as mentioned before, because if you take a look at some of their numbers in terms of where they rank in the league in these offensive categories here, then these areas must be addressed if this team is to make any noise in the playoffs. having Kem Birch, Chris Boucher, a couple of draft picks, which ideally Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster would like to hold on to based on their track record. They love their draft picks, and they do pretty well with them if we look at what they've done in the past. And that's no secret. If an offer presents itself that's worth it, and we all know that Masai is a hawk with those kinds of offers, so rest assured, Raptors Nation, we're most likely going to get the right deal done. And all signs right now, Raptors Nation, indicate that the Raptors are looking to be a playoff team this season. Had the Raptors had other plans than making the playoffs, let's just say we'd never see them break a most starter minutes played in franchise history record in a mid-season game. Fred VanVleet has been playing at an all-star level. Pascal Siakam has been going absolutely bonkers and is making his own case for a late all-star addition. After a shaky start to the season after coming back from shoulder surgery, he's just been on a tear since a little bit before the new year started. Not to mention, Siakam did just recently stifle the Heat on defense with 4 steals and 4 blocks, probably his best defensive game as a Raptor period, to go along with 16 points and 13 rebounds, and Gary Trent Jr., the first player, might I add, to score 30 points with 5 boards and 5 steals, other than Kawhi Leonard in a game as a Raptor. And not to mention, the Raptors also have a budding all-star caliber player in OG Anunoby, who, had he not gone down with an injury, could very well have been in the running for the All-Star game this year as well, as he was leading the team in scoring prior to sustaining the injury. The Raptors are 3rd in steals in the league and 2nd in offensive rebounding, and there's a lot to like about this team. All they have to do is shore up these offensive stats here, and if they're able to shore up these weaknesses from a team standpoint, then they could very well, like I said, be the dark horse contenders to win the East this year. All that's left now, Raptors Nation, is to wait and see what direction Masai and Bobby decide to take the team February 10th at the NBA trade deadline. Until then, let's sit tight and enjoy the ride, because I sense a strong month of February coming up for our team, and I personally think it will be our best month of the season yet. I recently made a take on our backup point guard situation featuring Delano Banton and Malachi Flynn, and gave an update as to what the perspective is from the Raptors moving forward from that backup point guard position. You don't want to miss that take, especially if you enjoyed this one. And remember, if you do watch it, you'll be feeding a hungry African. Seriously, I'm African, and I get hungry a lot. Got some munchies?